days after the blood and cheese incident, blood was seized at the gates of the god, trying to leave King's Landing with the head of Prince Jaehaerys hidden in one of his saddle sacks. Under torture, he confessed that he had been trying to take it to Harrenhal to collect his reward from Prince Daemon. He also gave up the description of the whore he claimed who had hired them, an older woman, foreign by her talk, cloaked in a hood, very pale. The other harlots called her Misery. After 13 days of torment, Blood was at last allowed to die. Queen Alicent had commanded Larys Strong, the Clubfoot, to learn his true name, so they might bathe in the blood of his wife and children. But our sources do not say if this occurred. Sir Luthor Largent and his gold cloaks searched the street of silk from top to bottom and stripped every harlot in King's Landing. But no trace of cheese or the white worm was ever found. In his grief and fury, King Aegon II commanded that all the city's rat catchers be taken out and hanged, and this was done. So Otto Hightower brought in 100 cats to the Red Keep to take their place. Though blood and cheese had spared her life, Queen Helaena cannot be said to have survived that fateful dusk. Afterward, she would not eat, nor bathe, nor leave her chambers, and she could no longer stand to look upon her son, Maelor, knowing that she had named him to die. The king had no recourse but to take the boy from her and give him over to his mother, the Dowager Queen Alicent, to raise as if he were her own. Aegon and his wife slept separately thereafter, and Queen Helaena sank deeper and deeper into madness, while the king raged and drank. Many die in war, both men grown and young children, but many may disagree that regardless of politics, blood and cheese will always be recalled in the annals of Westerosi history as one of the darkest days to ever happen in the history of House Targaryen. King Aegon II Targaryen desired to avenge the murder of his heir by means of an attack on Dragonstone, descending on the island citadel on Dragonback to seize or slay his half-sister and her bastard sons. It took the entirety of the Green Council to dissuade him from this course of action. It was Sir Criston Cole who urged a very different course, however. The Pretender Queen had made use of stealth and treachery to murder Prince Jaehaerys. Let them do the same. We will pay her back in her own bloody coin, he told the king. The instrument of the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard's wrath, whom he chose for the king's vengeance, was his own sworn brother, Sir Arryk Cargyll. Sir Arryk was said to be intimately familiar with the ancient seat of House Targaryen, having visited there often during the reign of King Viserys. Many fishermen still plied the waters of Blackwater Bay, even during the height of the Civil War, as Dragonstone depended on the sea for its food supply. It would be a very simple thing to deliver Cargyll to a fishing village under the castle without being seen. From there he could make his own way up to the Queen, and Sir Arryk and his brother Sir Eric were twins, identical in almost all respects, so much so not even the fellows of the Kingsguard could tell the two knights apart. Once clad in white, Sir Arryk should be able to freely move about Dragonstone without any questions being asked of him. Sir Criston Cole was adamant that any guard who chanced to encounter him would surely mistake him for his brother. Sir Arryk did not undertake this mission happily. Indeed, according to Septon Eustace, the troubled knight visited the Red Keep Sept on the night he was meant to set sail, to pray for forgiveness to the Mother above. Yet, as a Kingsguard knight, he was sworn to obey his king and commander. He had no choice in honour but to make his way to Dragonstone, clad in the salt-stained garb of a simple fisherman. The true purpose of Sir Arryk's mission remains a matter of some contention even to this day. Grand Maester Munkin has suggested to us that Arryk Cargyll had been commanded to slay Queen Rhaenyra, putting an end to her so-called rebellion at a stroke, while the courtful mushroom insists her sons were in fact Cargill's prey. That Aegon II wished to wash out the blood of his own murdered son, Jaehaerys, with that of his bastard nephews, Jaehaerys and Joffrey. It is said that Sir Arryk came ashore with no hindrance, donned his armour and white cloak, and had no trouble gaining entrance to the castle in the guise of his twin brother, just as Criston Cole had planned. Deep in the heart of Dragonstone, however, as he was making his way to the royal apartments, the gods brought him face to face with none other than Sir Arryk Cargyll himself, who knew at once what his twin brother's presence meant. The singers tell us that Sir Eric said, "I love you, brother," as he unsheathed his blade, and that Sir Eric replied, "And I love you, brother," as he drew his own sword. It is said the twins battled for the best part of an hour, the clash of steel on steel waking half of the Queen's court, but the onlookers could only stand by helplessly and watch, as no man there could tell which brother was which. In the end, Sir Arryk and Sir Eric dealt each other mortal wounds, and died in one another's arms, with tears upon their cheeks. However, the full Mushrooms account is much shorter, saltier, and altogether a whole lot nastier. According to the Fool, the fight lasted only moments. There was no declarations of brotherly love, with each Cargyll denouncing the other as a traitor as they clashed. Sir Eric was standing above his twin on the spiral steps, striking the first mortal blow as a savage downward cut that nigh took off his brother's sword arm at the shoulder. As he collapsed, Sir Arryk grasped his slayer's white cloak and pulled him close enough to drive a dagger deep into his belly. Sir Arryk was dead before the first guards managed to arrive, but Sir Eric took 4 days to die of his gut wound, screaming in horrible pain and cursing his traitor brother all the while. For obvious reasons, in the wake of the event, singers and storytellers have shown a marked preference for the tale as told by Munkin, with 2 loving brothers fighting to the death for their preferred claimant to the Iron Throne. Maesters and other scholars must make their own determination as to which is most likely. All that Septon Eustace says upon the matter is that the Cargyll twins slew each other, and that's all we can really know. But the lesson of this story is that civil war between the members of House Targaryen not only divided the house, the High Lords, the small folk, and the members of the Kingsguard, but 2 brothers whom lost their lives defending the rights of the claimant they believed was the rightful ruler of Westeros. The legacy and songs of the twins became well known up and down Westeros for generations. Otto Hightower was losing the trust of his grandson, the king, with Aegon mistaking his efforts for inaction and his caution for cowardice. One tale spun by Septon Eustace states that one day Aegon entered the Tower of the Hand and found Sir Otto writing another letter, whereupon he knocked the inkpot into his grandfather's lap, declaring, "Thrones are won with swords, and not quills. Spill blood, not ink." The sudden fall of Harrenhal to Prince Daemon came as a great shock. Until that moment, Aegon had believed his half-sister's cause to be hopeless, and made the king realise that his situation was far more perilous than it had seemed. These fears deepened as ravens returned from the Reach, where the Greens had believed themselves strongest. House Hightower of Oldtown was solidly behind King Aegon, as too was House Redwyne of the Arbor, but elsewhere, in the south, other lords were declaring for Rhaenyra, amongst them Lord Costane of Three Towers, Lord Mullidor of Uplands, Lord Tarley of Horn Hill, Lord Rowan of Golden Grove, and Lord Grim of Greyshield. Loudest amongst these traitors was Sir Alan Beesbury, Lord Lyman's heir, who was demanding the release of his grandfather from the dungeons, where most believed the former Master of Coin to be confined, when in reality he had been killed at the Green Council. Faced with such a clamour for their own bannerman, the Castellan, Steward, and mother the young Lord Tyrell of Highgarden, acting as regent for the babe, suddenly thought better their support of King Aegon, and decided House Tyrell would take no part in the Dance of the Dragons. King Aegon began to drown his fears in strong wine, Septon Eustace tells us. Sir Otto Hightower sent word to his nephew, Lord Ormond, beseeching him to use the power of Oldtown to put down these rash rebellions of the Reach. Other blows followed. The Vale, White Harbour, Winterfell, the Blackwoods and other river lords steamed to Harrenhal and Prince Daemon's banner. Then the Sea Snake, Corlys Velaryon's fleets, closed Blackwater Bay, and every morning King Aegon had merchants whining at him. His grace had no answer for their complaints, beyond yet another cup of strong wine. Do something, he demanded of his grandfather, Sir Otto. The Hand assured him that something was being done. Otto had hatched a plan to break the Velaryon blockade and restore trade to King's Landing, all the while dealing Rhaenyra a crippling blow. One of the chief pillars of the support for Rhaenyra's claim was her consort, yet Prince Daemon represented one of her greatest weaknesses as well. The prince had made more foes than friends during the course of the adventures of his youth. Otto Hightower, who had been amongst the first of those foes, now reached out across the narrow sea to another of the prince's enemies. the kingdom of the Three Daughters, who Daemon had spent years fighting in the Stepstones. By itself, the royal fleet Aegon had access to lacked the strength to break the sea snake's chokehold on the gullet. Lord Corlys's ships were more numerous and better built than those of House Targaryen. King Aegon's overtures to Dalton Greyjoy of Pyke had thus far failed to win the Iron Islands to his side. The combined fleet of Tyrosh, Lys and Myr would be more than a match for the Velaryons. So Otto Hightower sent word to the magisters of these cities, promising exclusive trading rights at King's Landing if they were to clear the gullet of the sea snake ships and open up the sea lanes once again. To add savour to the stew, he also promised to cede the Stepstones to the Three Daughters, though in truth the Iron Throne never had a proper claim on the island chain. The Triarchy was never quick to move. Lacking a true king, and with each party wishing to serve their own best interest, all important decisions in this three-headed kingdom were decided by the High Council. 11 magisters from each city made up its members, every man of them intent on demonstrating his own sagacity, shrewdness, and importance, and winning every possible advantage for his own city. Grand Maester Graydon wrote the definitive history of the Kingdom of the Three Daughters 50 years later and described it as 33 horses, each pulling in its own direction. Even issues as timely as war, peace and alliance were subject to endless debate, and the High Council was not even in session when Sir Otto's envoys arrived there. The delay did not sit well with the young king. Aegon had run short of patience with his grandfather. Though his mother, the Dowager Queen Alicent, spoke up in her father's defence, Aegon turned a deaf ear to her pleading. Summoning Otto to the throne room, he tore the chain of office from his neck and tossed it to Sir Criston Cole, the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. "My new hand is a still fist," Aegon boasted. "We are done with writing letters." Sir Criston Cole wasted no time improving his mettle. "It is not for you to plead for support from your lords, like a beggar pleading for alms," he told Aegon. "You are the lawful king of Westeros, and those who deny it are traitors. It is past time they learnt the price of treason. First to pay the price were the captive lords languishing in the dungeons under the Red Keep, men who had once sworn to defend the rights of Princess Rhaenyra and still stubbornly refused to bend the knee to King Aegon. One by one, they were dragged out into the castle ward, where the king's justice awaited them with his axe. Each man was given one final chance to swear fealty to Aegon. Only Lord Butterwell, Lord Stokeworth, Lord Rosby chose to do so. Lord Hayford, Merryweather, Hart, Buckler, Caswell, and Lady Fell valued their sworn word more than their lives, and were beheaded each in turn, along with 8 landed knights and 20 servants and retainers. The heads were mounted on spikes above the gates of King's Landing.